So I have that construct, and I also, some of you may or may not know, that about a year and a half ago, when some of the practices at juvenile probation first came to light in the San Francisco Chronicle, the U.S. Attorney opened a criminal grand jury. And he has been investigating the city and certain nonprofits in the city for to see whether there has been harboring of illegal immigrants here in the city and county of San Francisco, either by nonprofits or by the city. And we're not criminal lawyers, so we had to go out and spend over $1 million on independent criminal defense counsel to advise the juvenile probation department as to what legal risks or their practices may or may not have entailed. So that is the overall construct, and what we have said in short is you can implement it, but these are the legal risks that you face. And there's been a lot of discussion about that. Some folks have been unhappy about that. But my job as a city's lawyer is to advise of legal risks. And I wanted to come before you to, number one, just give you that construct and that background, and really to hear from you and to answer any questions to make sure that everybody has full information about what it is that we have done and we have not done. Is that a fair summation, Supervisor? Yes. Okay.
Can I say thank you for taking those risks for the people? You know, I mean, thank you for letting people know, but thank you for taking them on behalf of it.
City Attorney, is there anyone in the Obama administration who could work with the regional
the U.S. Attorney?
Yeah, to be friendlier?
Well, first of all, we've tried to reach out, but really we need to have a new U.S. Attorney who is going to be more in line with understanding what it takes to protect people's constitutional rights, but also be sensitive to what it is with respect to enforcement. Let me give you an example. Down in Santa Cruz, there was the whole discussion with respect to medicinal marijuana. And there was a declaratory relief action that was filed by the County of Santa Cruz, just like I'm willing to do with respect to the sanctuary ordinance, the Supervisor Campos' amendment and the sanctuary ordinance. And as a result of that, what has occurred? Now you have the Obama administration saying, you know what? Prosecuting this isn't going to be our highest priority, and we have new guidelines with respect to how we are going to deal with medical marijuana issues. And that's the same exact thing that should happen here. This should not be the highest priority of the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Northern District of California. I think we've got a lot of other things that we should be focused on and worrying about than going on wild goose chases with respect to taking an overly expansive view of what constitutes harboring and trying to settle an old score on a sanctuary ordinance from 20 years ago that has served this city well by trying to have another bite at the apple because you didn't get the win the first time. So from my perspective, that's what should occur. Because I'll tell you right now, I think that if there was something there, he might prosecute. But I don't think he'd ever get a conviction. But there'd be a lot of money that was spent, a lot of people's lives that would be impacted, and a lot of intimidation that would occur. And that's not the kind of stuff that should happen. We should be demanding the Obama administration that they handle this the same way that they did with medicinal marijuana and have some prosecutorial discretion so that people aren't living in fear, especially a lot of kids who haven't done anything that warrant from a policy perspective being deported out of the United States.
Thank you for coming, City Attorney. Actually, I'm really glad you came to clarify because I was unclear about where your office stood before right now. Would it be helpful? Has the Central Committee done anything around this? Did they pass a resolution, the Democratic Central Committee, did they pass a resolution requesting the Obama administration?
Yes, they have.
They have?
Last year.
Last year?
Last year, yeah.
Okay.
And I should tell you, by way of the U.S. Attorney's Office, there's been discussions about candidates and names forwarded and forwarded in committees, and I keep hearing that they have someone in the pipeline they're going to appoint, but it's kind of like the checks in the mail. I'm still waiting,
okay.
And it's a year in.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering, as a city attorney and as an activist that you are, I mean, is there
any kind of risk that you can take, any kind of calculated risk that
Yes.
you can take and present that would kind of facilitate moving this forward? Because, I mean, isn't Loquito Maria's got no gun, right? There's some kind of risk that has to.
So yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you what we're doing and what we're trying to do. I've had a number of meetings with the coalition that Angela is involved with, the lawyers, and I've met with activists themselves on more than one occasion. And I've taken their draft juvenile probate, what they propose to put forward, and I've been reviewing this, excuse me, line by line, clause by clause, section by section, to try and tell the juvenile probation department about where you could modify your policy from where it is now and still stay within, going up to the edge about what you can ask, what you can't ask, what you can do, number one. Number two, I've offered to go and do trainings ourselves, and we just received a positive response from Chief Stiff from the Juvenile Probation Department to have us, the City Attorney's Office, provide training to all his officers so they hear from us exactly how far they can take it instead of just relying on maybe what comes down from the department head. So they hear directly from us about what it is legally, that how far they can go. Okay, so there's no misunderstanding. Number three, I have expressed a willingness to file a declaratory relief action, exactly like I did in the marriage cases that resulted in a victory at the California Supreme Court on the unconstitutionality of marriage laws. I've offered to I said I would file a declaratory relief action. Now, to be fair and honest about it, that's something I'm willing to do, but I'm in consultation with the coalition's leaders about whether that's the best strategy or not, because there is some fear that if we did that with respect to David's amendment, okay, we don't want to do something that would threaten the whole sanctuary ordinance. We have to do what we can to preserve that. And we've made a commitment that we're not going to do anything precipitous that I wrote us to take an action that would threaten the sanctuary ordinance, because I think that we have to make sure that we keep that, despite the fact that we have this threat over our head with respect to David, Supervisor Compos's amendment. So those are three things, and I'm willing to go. I've said I will defend the ordinance. I've said I will advise and train on how far up to the edge we can go. And number three, I've offered and said I'm willing to file a declaratory relief action and put the full power of my office to go forth and make an affirmative case as to why Supervisor Compos's amendment does not violate federal law. So those are three things that I'm willing to do.